Hello and welcome to the Sway Bees. No bees bought, British beekeeping. No bees bought, no honey had. Just going to do a overview of how I make the bottom boards, the Varroa mesh bottom boards today. Show you the difference between a Langstroth 8-frame hive that I've decided to go with, and the British National hive. The difference. And how much easier it is to make the Langstroth than it's going to be to make the British Nationals. So let me turn the camera around. Okay, so welcome to my little workshop. There's some Varroa mesh floors I've already done, or nearly done actually. I'm just waiting for some Corex board to do the actual bottoms, but yes, a stack I've done, and I've got some more to finish off. Anybody who thinks this place is a mess now should have seen it a couple of days ago. Insert photo from a couple of days ago. The Varroa mesh floors are not difficult to make. In all honesty, anybody that can get themselves to a yard like a timber yard of some sorts should be able to make one of these Varroa mesh floors. All my timber comes in long lengths, and coming in about 4 meter lengths, and it's all rough sawn, so it all looks like that. I put it through thicknessers, planers, to get it flat and square and dimensioned to actually what I want, and all this is the same sort of thickness. It's all about 19 millimeters thick, but that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how thick it is. It's been a long while since I bought any planed timber. I think it comes in about 18.5 millimeters. So if you can get hold of that, that's fine. You know, these are bees, and this is the bottom of the hive. There are a couple of dimensions that you do want to watch for, and I'll come to those in a minute. There's only really two, but I just want to show you the difference between these hives. So this is a British National Super. This is actually from a WBC. So, but all this work that needs to be done on these, all these channels and the spacings and the extra pieces of timber. I mean, there's 2 pieces of timber just there. So how many, let's just have a quick count up. How many pieces of timber are in this actual super box? Right, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I believe that's 10. Okay, let's have a look at a Langstroth box. Should we have a count up? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That is it. That's why I make Langstroths. And the reason I make 8-frame Langstroths and not 10 frames is because the difference between that and that is 0.2 of a litre. So these are only 8 frames, but the frames are bigger. Those are more frames, but they're slightly smaller. So a brood box is only 0.2 of a litre difference. Excuse me. And yeah, I mean, you can, just by looking at that, you can see how much easier it's going to be to make these. 8 frames are also going to be lighter than a 10 frame, because obviously, you know, if there's not much difference between that and that, and then all of a sudden with that you go 2 more, then you've got quite a bit more weight. You know, 2 more frames, you've got quite a bit more weight. So these are a lot easier to make. Okay, so a Varroa baseboard, basically made up of 2 sections. You've got your board that actually collects the mites. This, I use a 4mm Corex board, comes in 8x4 sheets, and I cut it up. I can't remember how many I get out of it now, 6, 8 boards out of it. You've got a wooden strip at one end, which acts as a bit of a seal and also gives you a bit of a handle to grab the board with, makes it a lot easier. Your main board is made up basically of three sections. You have a 4-piece frame here that sits underneath inside, and the whole job of this is purely and simply just to hold that Corex board in position. That's all that does. You have a top U section, and what that does is acts as a cover for the Varroa mesh, but also holds the Varroa mesh in place at the back. Okay, and then you have the main body of the board, the base, and that consists of the 2 sides, a front section, a little porchway, if you will, and then there's one other section that sits inside, which holds this metal strip, which is holding the front of the metal, holding the front of the mesh. I'll show you that now. Take this off. So basically what you'll have is a section, let me just cut that down. A section of your Varroa strip comes down to the end of that, and then you have a metal strip that sits down between those and but over the edge of that mesh, and it doesn't want to play. Let me do it like that. Now you won't necessarily see this section because this will be underneath the front edge of the brood body, but it runs right the way to the back, and it's flush with the back, that mesh. So let me show you how that sits, and I'll come back and explain to you about the mesh on the sheet in a second. So the brood body sits on whichever brood body you're using, obviously up to you. This is an 8-frame Langstroth, as I said before. So all these measurements, the mesh is all cut specifically for this. Whichever brood body you're using, basically the 2 measurements you want to worry about is the length and the width. The most prominent one is the width. So you make sure that the base is always the same width as your brood body. Okay, the length can vary slightly. I mean, obviously you need the base to come to the front edge, flush with the back, but come to the front edge of the brood body. Now here, because I'm not traveling with these are going to be static. I'm not going to put them in trailers or anything like that. I have a porchway. It gives the bees somewhere to land. It also gives them somewhere to hang out when they're not doing anything foraging. It also makes it a little easier, I think, to get a hive reducer in. So when you've actually got the U-shaped part, let me get a U-shaped part. Is that the right one? Yeah. So when you've got your U-shaped part on, you're actually able to get an entrance reducer in. Let's cut that bit. Wrong bit. Wrong bit again. Oh no. Right, you're actually able to slide the entrance reducer in a little easier. I just think it looks a bit neater. So, right, let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. So the mesh I get from robinsonwirecloth.co.uk. You'll see on the left hand side all the categories. Down the bottom they've got a category called beekeeping, and if you click on that you'll find that they've got links to Varroa mesh for all different hive types. I did ask them to put the 8-frame Langstroth on because they didn't have it on there at the time, which they kindly did. But you can find nukes, WBCs, British Nationals, you know, all sorts you can find there. The metal strip is 0.3 millimeters thick, 20 millimeters wide, and I get this, well, I'm starting off, I bought it in a 5 meter roll. I'll probably increase that because I'm going to need more and more of them. I then take it and just bend it. I've got a bender, brake press. I'm going to just bend that in the center to 90 degrees. Okay, so this is a separate month from when I started doing the videos for these floors, because I ran out of metal strap, and I ordered some. It took a fortnight to get here, and then I realised I'd only ordered half the amount I needed, so I've ordered some more, and this is it. 0.3 millimeters by 20 centimeters by 5 meters. Comes in a roll like that. I then cut it down to 31 centimeter lengths, like so, and then I place said lengths into my bending gizmo, and then trying to do this one-handed and watch what I'm doing as well. I put a bit of masking tape down and butt it up to the masking tape. It seems to be a little bit easier to do. Trying to do it one hand doesn't work, yeah? Right, hang on a minute, let me put the camera down. So. Right, and tighten said gizmos. And grab a handle and then twist, or pull, or push, or you know what I'm doing. Yep, and that's all I do. And do a load of those, and I can finish off the last of my floors. And after that, what you're going to need, a drop of glue. I also use an air stapler and a little air nailer, and these are 50 millimeter nails I've got for this, and these are just purely and simply used to keep the mesh and the sheet in position. Right, let's put one together, because you've got to do that. You've got to do this in the right order. I did one a little while ago. This is take 2. I did one a little while ago and I realised I got it totally wrong. I did have a bit of video on how I'd done this before, and I can't find it now, so I've had to sort of reteach myself how to do it. So grab yourself, I grab a piece that's going to be the right width to fit in there. You can see it's a nice fit. I put it over there at the back. I then grab my mesh and I put my mesh over. What I might do actually for this also is just to grab just going to grab one of these, just makes it a little bit easier. Just tighten that up a pinch, just to help hold that in place while I do this. So grab that, hang on, let's push that out that way. This is purely and simply, this whole part is just purely and simply to line up the mesh with the piece of wood that it's being stuck to, nailed to. Make sure everything lines up. Make sure you've got your strip within the boundaries of these two sides, because it's going to fit inside in a minute. Make sure you got your nailer connected to your hose, air hose. Always beneficial. So line it up. Okay, we can get rid of that. Now we want to staple that to that. Winding your fingers as you do. Okay, so that is going to fit in to the front section of your base. So what you do is you slide that in with plenty of encouragement. And then fix that in position. Okay, so the next thing is your top section U. Change that one out. I need to line all this lot up. So what I do is I line this far corner up first. So line the mesh up with the bottom, and then line the U up with the rest of it, making sure it's something like where it needs to be there, and get a staple in it. Then do the same with the other corner. So line everything up. Staple it. Let's make sure we've got enough staples. Yep. Right, over to the front. Make sure everything's lined up. It's a little bit over there, but be alright. Whack some staples into it. And the same on this side. Okay, so next you've got to sort out the mesh at the back. Take your next strip, place your next strip in position. And then do the very back. And then next, I don't need any small pins anymore. Grab some more staples. Next we want to do this part of the under section. So what I'm going to do is take some glue, and then just stick that, make sure it's level with that section which will be above it. Not that it really matters, but and then grab that. It says moving. I did say it didn't matter. Take an edge. And then line the bottom of this piece up with the bottom of the piece you've just put in. So that way you can see what I'm doing. Same again on the other side. And then we'll put a front piece in, which is a little bit wider. Wider that way. Get that in. Put that like that. Use the Mark 1 eyeball. And just line everything up. Once that's in, I'll give it another one just for good measure. What you want to be careful is the staples don't come out through and then up into the center section here, because if they do, you're not going to get the board in, the Corex board won't go in. So it doesn't matter if they fly out the base here, but if they come in into the middle, that's annoying. There you go. So I've actually got to wait for some more Corex to turn up, but just cut the Corex to fit, and then one kerf, one blade straight through the center on the table saw. I think a blade's about 3.5 millimeters. This is 4, so a bit of a squeeze, fits it in there nicely. A couple of pins in through the top, and just you're good to go. And that is it. All right, a couple of tip de jours. I've recently found out over the last few bottoms I've done that you don't need this piece in here added. You don't need it if you make sure that these are the bottom or the top of this is below this section here. Let me get down and I'll show you, because that way when the board comes in it butts up to that anyway, so you don't need to add that piece on top, because what I was doing was adding that piece on top and then bringing this up level with that, which left a really big gap down here. But you don't need to. Save yourself some timber and a bit of time. Also, plus this Corex board has a tendency to warp a bit, so if you've got it so it warps up towards the mesh and you cut the end, you cut the pull block right, if you cut this groove near the top, it makes it easier to get the Corex board in and staple, but also what it does is it leaves a tighter gap. Because the board's naturally arced, and if you lift it up and just slide it in, it holds it there quite nicely, and it makes for a better seal. Because what I'm going to try and avoid where possible is too much of a draft all the way around for the windsill. So that actually works quite well. So if you're thinking, well, you've not given us any dimensions, you've got all the dimensions you need, because you've got your brood box size, and that's all you need. Everything else you just work your way away from the brood box size. It's dead easy. Nothing difficult about it at all. So yeah, I hope that helped. Maybe save yourself a few pennies, and thanks for watching.